The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. Family only. Sarah said, not even looking up from her phone as she scrolled through restaurant reviews. I stood frozen in our kitchen, still holding the coffee mug I'd been washing, watching my wife plan our stepson Dylan's 13th birthday party without me. When I asked about attending, her response was ice cold and final. Marcus would be there, her ex-husband, celebrating with their son at some upscale Italian place downtown. But me? The man who'd been paying half the mortgage for 6 months, who'd helped Dylan with homework, countless nights, who'd driven him to soccer practice in the rain. I wasn't invited. Standing there with my wedding ring suddenly feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds, I realized the crushing truth. The family I thought I'd married into had never actually included me at all. I set down the mug with trembling hands, coffee still dripping from my fingers. Sarah, can we talk about this? I asked, my voice barely steady. Dylan's birthday means a lot to me, too. She finally glanced up, her expression somewhere between annoyance and pity. Ted, you need to understand something. This isn't about you. It's about what's best for Dylan, and he needs consistency with his real parents. Real parents. The phrase cut deep. I thought back to 18 months ago when I first met Sarah at that little coffee shop on Maple Street. She'd been reading a mystery novel, her dark hair falling across her face in a way that made me lose track of my order entirely. When I finally worked up the courage to introduce myself, she seemed different from the other women I'd dated in Portland. Grounded. Genuine. A single mother working hard to build a good life for her son. Our courtship felt like something from a romantic movie. Weekend hikes in the Columbia River Gorge, late-night conversations about books and dreams, quiet dinners where she'd share stories about Dylan's latest accomplishments. She mentioned the complexities of co-parenting with Marcus, but always downplayed the difficulties. We're both focused on what's best for Dylan, she'd say with a smile that made me believe everything would work out perfectly. I remembered our wedding day 6 months ago at that small venue overlooking the Willamette River. Dylan had seemed distant during the ceremony, but I'd attributed it to normal adjustment anxiety. What 12-year-old wouldn't feel awkward about their mother remarrying? I'd been patient, understanding, confident that time would heal any awkwardness between us. Sarah, I've been trying so hard with Dylan, I said now, my voice cracking slightly. Remember when I helped him build that model airplane? Or when we went fishing last month and he actually laughed at my terrible jokes? She sighed like I was being deliberately obtuse. Ted, you're a sweet man, but Marcus thinks you try too hard. Dylan feels pressured when you push these activities on him. Marcus thinks. The words landed like a physical blow. You've been discussing our marriage with Marcus. Of course I have. He's Dylan's father. We have to coordinate everything. She returned to her phone, scrolling through menu options. Look, I made reservations at Romano's for 6:30. It's been booked for weeks. Weeks. This exclusion hadn't been a last-minute decision. It had been planned, calculated, deliberate. How long have you been planning this without me? Ted, please don't make this dramatic. It's just dinner. But it wasn't just dinner, and we both knew it. This was Dylan's 13th birthday, a milestone celebration, and I'd been systematically excluded from planning any part of it. What about Christmas? I asked quietly. Easter, will those be family-only events too? Sarah's silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, she stood and walked toward the hallway. I need to get ready. Marcus is picking us up at 6. As she disappeared upstairs, I heard her phone ring. She answered on the second ring, her voice immediately brightening. Hey, Marcus. Yes, everything's ready for tonight. I moved closer to the stairwell, not quite eavesdropping, but unable to stop myself from listening. I know, right? Sarah laughed, a sound I hadn't heard directed at me in months. He actually asked if he could come tonight. I told him it was family only. Another laugh. Exactly. He's so naive sometimes. Honestly, having him around makes everything easier. He handles all the household stuff, pays half the bills, and we can focus on real family time without worrying about the day-to-day nonsense. My blood turned to ice water. Real family time. I was the household manager, the bill-paying convenience, while Sarah and Marcus maintained their actual family unit. I'd been relegated to the role of live-in assistant funding their lifestyle while being excluded from anything meaningful. Dylan's been asking about the camping trip next weekend, Sarah continued. I told him it would just be the three of us like old times. Ted never needs to know about our weekend plans. Weekend plans, camping trips. How many family activities had I been systematically excluded from while believing Dylan was just busy with school friends or visiting relatives? The conversation continued, but I'd heard enough. I walked back to the kitchen on unsteady legs, staring at the family photos on the refrigerator. Every single one showed either me alone with Dylan or Sarah alone with Dylan. Not one photo captured the three of us together as a family unit. Because we weren't a family unit. We never had been. I was living a lie, and apparently I was the only one who didn't know it. The house felt suffocating after Sarah's phone conversation. I needed evidence needed to understand exactly how deep this deception went. I retrieved my laptop from the home office, my hands shaking as I logged into our shared phone account. The message history made my stomach drop. Sarah had been deleting texts and calls from Dylan's school, ensuring I never saw notifications about parent-teacher conferences, school plays, or award ceremonies. Messages about Dylan's achievements, struggles, and daily school life had been systematically hidden from me. I searched through our filing cabinet and found Dylan's emergency contact forms from school. Under primary contacts, only Sarah and Marcus were listed. Under authorized pickup, the same two names. Under medical emergency, again only Sarah and Marcus. My name appeared nowhere on any official school document despite living in the same house and helping Dylan with homework every night. Our bedroom desk revealed more devastating evidence. Sarah's life insurance beneficiaries still listed Marcus as primary with Dylan as secondary. Our joint bank account showed her individual retirement account had never been updated to include me. In every legal and financial document that mattered, I simply didn't exist. I remembered the weekend trips Dylan took that Sarah claimed were school science camp or debate team competitions. How many of those had actually been family getaways with Marcus? How many bonding experiences had I been excluded from while believing Dylan was developing his academic interests? The mailbox key led me outside, where I discovered letters from Dylan's soccer league addressed to the Morrison family, Sarah Dylan and Marcus. Tournament schedules, team photos, award notifications, all sent to our address, but addressed to a family unit that excluded me entirely. Mrs. Patterson, our elderly neighbor, was watering her roses when I walked back inside. She'd lived on Elm Street for 37 years and knew every family's routine. "Ted, dear," she called over the fence. "Will you be joining Sarah and Dylan at the farmer's market this Saturday? I see them there every week with that nice gentleman Marcus." Every week. Every single Saturday morning when Sarah claimed she and Dylan were running quick errands, they'd been maintaining family traditions with Marcus. Traditions I'd never been invited to join or even told about. "How long have they been going together?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "Oh, since before you moved in, certainly. Such a lovely family. They always buy flowers for Dylan to give to his teachers. Marcus is so good with that boy." I thanked Mrs. Patterson and walked back inside, each revelation adding weight to the crushing realization that I'd been living as an outsider in my own marriage. My phone buzzed with a notification from Instagram. Sarah had posted a throwback photo from Dylan's 12th birthday last year, 6 months before our wedding. The image showed Sarah, Dylan, and Marcus laughing around a birthday cake, looking like the perfect family unit. The caption read, "Missing these simple moments with my boys." My boys, not our boys, not even Dylan and Ted, just her boys referring to Dylan and Marcus. I clicked through Sarah's Instagram profile, something I'd never done extensively before. Photo after photo showed Sarah and Dylan at events, festivals, and activities I'd never heard about. Marcus appeared in dozens of recent photos, often tagged with hearts or family time captions. In the few photos that included me, I was always positioned slightly apart, never fully integrated into the group composition. The most devastating discovery came when I found a private Facebook group called Portland Area Single Parents. Sarah was an active member, regularly posting about the challenges of maintaining consistency for Dylan while dealing with my temporary living situation. Temporary living situation. That was how she described our marriage. In one post from just 2 weeks ago, she'd written, "Anyone else dealing with well-meaning partners who try too hard with your kids? My current situation keeps wanting to be dad when my ex and I have the co-parenting thing figured out. It's exhausting, pretending to be grateful for help we don't actually need." The comments were worse. Other group members had offered advice about setting boundaries with transitional relationships and protecting your real family from outside interference. Sarah had responded with laughing emojis and exactly what's responses to suggestions about keeping temporary partners in their place. My throat constricted as I scrolled through months of posts describing me as an inconvenience, a well-meaning but ultimately temporary disruption to the real family unit of Sarah, Dylan, and Marcus. I found a group text thread between Sarah, Marcus, and several mutual friends from Dylan's school. The conversation was filled with inside jokes about my attempts to bond with Dylan. They'd screenshot photos I'd sent Sarah of Dylan and me at baseball games, adding mocking captions about replacement dad trying so hard and when the substitute thinks he's permanent. One particularly cruel exchange showed them laughing about the camping gear I'd bought for a family trip that never happened. Marcus had written, "Does he really think Dylan wants to go camping with some random guy?" Sarah had responded, "I told him Dylan was too busy with school. He looked so disappointed it was almost cute." The thread continued for months, documenting every gift I'd given Dylan, every attempt at father-son bonding, every effort I'd made to integrate into what I believed was becoming our family. All of it had been entertainment for Sarah, Marcus, and their friends. But the final blow came in a message thread from just 4 days ago. Marcus had written, "Dylan's party is going to be perfect, just like old times." Sarah had responded, "I can't wait to get back to normal. This whole charade is exhausting." Marcus, "How much longer do you think you'll need to keep him around, Sarah? Just until we're ready to make it official again. Having him pay half the mortgage makes saving for our future so much easier." Our future. Sarah and Marcus were planning a future together, and I was funding it. My hands trembled as I screenshot everything, creating a folder labeled Evidence on my desktop. Whatever was happening here, whatever game I'd unknowingly been playing, it was about to end. At 6:15, I watched from our living room window as Marcus pulled into our driveway in his silver BMW. He'd clearly dressed for the occasion, wearing a navy suit I'd never seen before. Given Sarah's teacher salary and Marcus's inconsistent freelance work as a graphic designer, someone else had paid for that suit. Someone whose joint bank account had been mysteriously lighter lately. Sarah emerged from the house wearing the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, the one she claimed was too fancy for regular occasions. Apparently, Dylan's birthday qualified as a special occasion worthy of anniversary attire. Dylan followed behind her wearing the khakis and button-down shirt we'd bought together for school presentations. Even he was dressed more formally than I'd expected for a simple family dinner. I watched Marcus get out of the car and hug Sarah, holding her just a moment longer than necessary. He ruffled Dylan's hair with the easy familiarity of someone who'd never stopped being part of the family unit. Their body language spoke of comfort, history, and belonging. They looked like what they were, a family heading out for a celebration. After they drove away, I opened my laptop and began tracking their evening through social media. Romano's Italian restaurant had a location feature, and several of Dylan's classmates' parents were posting photos from the same establishment. This wasn't the intimate family dinner Sarah had described. This was a full birthday party with friends, extended family, and school community members. The first photo appeared on Facebook 23 minutes after they'd left our house. Marcus was sitting next to Dylan, both of them laughing at something off camera. Sarah sat across from them, her expression relaxed and genuinely happy, in a way I hadn't seen in months. The caption read, "Celebrating our amazing boy." More photos followed from other attendees. Dylan's soccer coach was there with his wife. 3 sets of parents from Dylan's class had brought their children. Sarah's sister Linda had driven down from Seattle with her family. Even Marcus's parents, whom I'd met exactly once during our wedding reception, were seated at a large round table decorated with birthday balloons and a professional-looking cake. I counted 14 people in the various photos, none of whom had ever been mentioned to me as potential party guests. Sarah's story about a simple family dinner had been a complete fabrication. This was a milestone celebration for Dylan's 13th birthday, complete with extended family, school friends, and community members who'd known Dylan his entire life. The suit Marcus wore wasn't just new, it was expensive. I recognized the cut and fabric quality from the high-end department store where Sarah had insisted we register for wedding gifts. Someone had bought Marcus a $200 suit for this occasion, using money from our joint account without my knowledge. Another photo showed Dylan blowing out candles on an elaborate cake decorated with his favorite soccer team's logo. The professional quality cake must have cost at least $75. Again, money from our joint account had funded this celebration I'd been excluded from. I opened our online banking and scrolled through recent transactions. $327 at Romano's for family dinner reservation. $115 at Paolo's Bakery for special occasion cake. $89 at Men's Warehouse for Jurmioster formal attire. $240 at Party City for the birthday decorations and supplies. Over $800 had been spent on this celebration, using our joint account money I'd contributed through my engineering job at Intel. I'd unknowingly funded my own exclusion from the most important day in Dylan's young life. But the financial deception was nothing compared to the social revelation. I began researching the other attendees, people who clearly knew Dylan well enough to be invited to his milestone birthday. Sarah's sister Linda had always been friendly during our brief interactions, but had never mentioned the ongoing relationship between Sarah and Marcus. Dylan's soccer coach, Mr. Rodriguez, had coached Dylan for 2 seasons, yet I'd never been introduced despite attending several games. These weren't casual acquaintances who'd randomly been available for dinner. These were important people in Dylan's life, carefully selected guests who'd been planning this celebration for weeks. The level of coordination required meant Sarah had been actively maintaining a social network that completely excluded me. I found Dylan's soccer team's private Facebook group and realized Marcus was listed as Dylan's father and emergency contact for all team activities. He attended practices, games, and team events, while I believed Dylan was simply busy with school activities. Marcus had maintained his role as Dylan's father throughout our entire marriage, with Sarah's full support and coordination. The restaurant photos continued throughout the evening, documenting speeches, gift opening, and celebration activities. Marcus and Dylan opened presents together, with Marcus clearly familiar with each gift and its significance. Sarah's parents, whom I'd met twice during our relationship, were laughing and engaging with Marcus like a son-in-law rather than an ex-husband. At 8:43, a video appeared on Instagram showing the entire party singing "Happy Birthday" to Dylan. Marcus stood directly behind Dylan's chair, his hands on Dylan's shoulders in a protective paternal gesture. Sarah beamed from the adjacent seat, her hand resting on Marcus's arm. They looked like proud parents celebrating their son's achievement, surrounded by their community of family and friends. I was 32 years old, had been married for 6 months, and was discovering that my wife had been maintaining a parallel family life that excluded me entirely. Every assumption I'd made about our relationship, every belief about my role in Dylan's life, every hope about our future together was crumbling in real time. At 9:57, I heard the BMW pull into our driveway. I closed the laptop and waited in the living room, trying to prepare myself for whatever conversation was about to happen. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. Sarah stumbled through the front door, clearly having consumed more wine than usual. Marcus followed behind her, carrying Dylan, who'd fallen asleep in the car. They moved through our house with the easy familiarity of a family returning from a celebration. "Best birthday ever," Sarah slurred slightly, hanging onto Marcus's free arm. "Just like it should be." Marcus settled Dylan onto our couch and turned to Sarah with a smile I'd seen in their old family photos. "Just like old times," he agreed. That's when Sarah noticed me sitting in the armchair across the room. "Oh," she said, her expression shifting from joy to annoyance. "You're still awake." "It's only 10 o'clock, I replied quietly. Marcus cleared his throat uncomfortably. "I should head home. Thanks for tonight, Sarah. It meant everything." "Wait," Sarah said, grabbing his hand. Her voice became urgent, desperate. "Marcus, don't go. Not yet." He squeezed her hand gently. "Sarah, we talked about this." "I know, but—" She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold. Calculating. Final. "Ted, we need to talk." Marcus lifted Dylan carefully, preparing to carry him upstairs to his bedroom. As they passed my chair, Dylan stirred and mumbled sleepily, "Thanks for the best birthday, Dad." Dad, not Marcus. Dad. Dylan had never called me anything close to a paternal term, despite 6 months of marriage and countless attempts at bonding. After Marcus tucked Dylan into bed, he returned to the living room where Sarah waited with barely contained excitement. "Ted." She began her words slightly slurred, but her intention crystal clear. "Tonight was perfect. Absolutely perfect. And Marcus asked me to marry him again." The words hit me like a physical blow, but worse was coming. I said yes. She continued, her eyes shining with happiness I'd never inspired. "We're getting back together and we need you to move out. Tonight. Marcus is moving back in tomorrow." I sat in stunned silence as my wife of 6 months announced she was leaving me for her ex-husband in front of that same ex-husband after excluding me from their son's birthday party, using my money to fund the celebration. "I understand," I said quietly, my voice surprisingly steady. Sarah blinked clearly, expecting an argument. "You do." "I understand perfectly," I repeated, standing from the chair. "I'll pack tonight." As I walked toward the stairs, Marcus spoke for the first time since announcing he should leave. "Ted, man, I'm sorry it worked out this way." I turned back to face them, both still standing together in our living room like they'd never been apart. "No, Marcus," I said calmly. "You're not sorry. And after tonight, you're going to wish you were." I climbed the stairs to our bedroom with deliberate calm, my mind shifting from emotional devastation to strategic planning. Sarah and Marcus had been coordinating this deception for months, possibly since our wedding day. But their arrogance had created vulnerabilities they couldn't possibly anticipate. I began documenting everything methodically, starting with photographs of every room in the house. Sarah had insisted on keeping family photos that included Marcus, claiming they were important for Dylan's sense of history. Now I photographed each frame, noting how they told the story of a family that had never truly ended. The master bedroom revealed more evidence of deception. Hidden in Sarah's jewelry box underneath her grandmother's pearls, I found a savings account statement for an account I'd never known existed. The Morrison Family Future Fund contained over $37,000 built through systematic transfers from our joint account. Money I'd contributed for household expenses had been secretly diverted to fund Sarah and Marcus's reunion plans. My laptop captured screenshots of Sarah's browser history, revealing months of research into divorce procedures, property division laws, and custody arrangements. She'd been consulting with attorney Patricia Chen for 7 weeks, building a case to maximize her financial advantage in our inevitable separation. But Sarah had made crucial errors in her research. I opened a new browser window and began investigating marriage laws in Oregon, discovering information that would change everything. Jake Morrison, my college roommate and current family law attorney, answered his phone on the second ring, despite the late hour. "Ted, what's happening? You sound terrible." I explained the evening's revelations while simultaneously photographing financial documents, text messages, and social media evidence. Jake listened without interruption, occasionally asking for clarification about dates and details. "Send me everything you're finding," Jake said grimly. "But Ted, there's something else you need to check immediately. If Sarah was researching divorce procedures while still married to Marcus, we might be dealing with something bigger than adultery." I accessed the county clerk's online database while Jake waited on the line. Searching for marriage and divorce records under Sarah Morrison revealed information that made my blood run cold. "Jake," I whispered. "Their divorce decree was never finalized. There's a notation about missing signatures and incomplete paperwork, but no final judgment date. Jesus Christ, Ted. You might not be legally married to Sarah at all. If her divorce from Marcus was never completed, your marriage could be invalid. That would make Sarah guilty of bigamy and you a victim of marriage fraud." Marriage fraud. The words hit me like lightning. Sarah had knowingly married me while still legally married to Marcus, making our entire relationship a criminal deception. I continued searching county records while Jake researched federal marriage fraud penalties. The trail of evidence grew more damning with each discovery. Sarah and Marcus had been filing separate tax returns to claim single-parent benefits despite living together periodically and maintaining their legal marriage. They'd been claiming Dylan as a dependent on both returns, essentially committing tax fraud with their son as the vehicle. "Ted, this is bigger than divorce court," Jake said. "This is federal tax fraud, marriage fraud, and benefits fraud. We're talking about potential prison time for both of them." The basement revealed evidence I'd never suspected. Behind the water heater, Marcus had been storing equipment and supplies for a home-based business Sarah had never mentioned. Chemical supplies, packaging materials, and distribution records showed Marcus had been manufacturing and selling synthetic dietary supplements without FDA approval or proper business licensing. "Jake, I'm finding evidence of illegal business operations. Marcus has been running some kind of unlicensed supplement manufacturing from our basement using our address for a business that's generating unreported income." "Don't touch anything else," Jake warned. "Photograph everything but don't disturb the scene. If they're manufacturing unregulated substances for distribution, we're now dealing with federal drug enforcement issues." I systematically photographed the entire basement operation while Jake contacted his colleagues who specialized in federal fraud cases. The scope of Sarah and Marcus's deception extended far beyond marital infidelity into criminal enterprise. My personal banking records revealed how Sarah had been funding their operation. Small regular transfers from our joint account to her hidden savings had been accumulating for months. Money I'd contributed for Dylan's school expenses, household improvements, and family activities had actually been funding an illegal business operation that put Dylan at risk. "Jake, they've been using Dylan as cover for criminal activity. If federal agents investigate the basement operation, Dylan could be removed from the home for his safety." "That's exactly what needs to happen," Jake replied. "Dylan is living in an unsafe environment with parents engaged in criminal activity. Child Protective Services needs to be involved immediately." I found Marcus's distribution records hidden in a file cabinet behind old tax documents. His supplement business was selling products to customers across 17 states, generating over $15,000 monthly in unreported income. The scale of the operation constituted serious federal tax evasion. But the most devastating discovery came in a notebook documenting their long-term plans. Sarah and Marcus had been coordinating their reunion for over 8 months, timing my financial contributions to fund their illegal business startup. They'd calculated exactly how much money they needed from my income to establish their operation before eliminating me from their lives. I was never a husband or stepfather. I was a temporary funding source for their criminal enterprise. "Jake, I found their planning documents. They've been using me to finance illegal activities while planning to abandon me as soon as they had enough money to operate independently." "Ted, we're filing reports with multiple agencies first thing tomorrow morning. The IRS needs to know about tax fraud. The DEA needs to know about unregulated manufacturing. The State Attorney General needs to know about marriage fraud. And Child Protective Services needs to know that Dylan is living with parents engaged in criminal activity." I spent the remainder of the night organizing evidence into categories: financial fraud, marriage fraud, tax fraud, illegal business operations, and child endangerment. By dawn, I had documented proof of crimes that would destroy Sarah and Marcus's plans while protecting Dylan from their dangerous decisions. Sarah and Marcus had underestimated me completely. They'd seen a naive engineer who could be manipulated and discarded, but they'd actually targeted someone with the analytical skills, attention to detail, and moral conviction to expose their entire operation. Their arrogance would be their downfall, and Dylan would finally be safe from their criminal neglect. Dawn brought clarity and purpose. I contacted Jake Morrison, first providing him with organized files of evidence categorized by agency jurisdiction. We scheduled an emergency meeting at his downtown Portland office for 7:30, giving me time to prepare comprehensive reports for multiple government agencies. "Ted, what you've uncovered isn't just divorce material anymore," Jake explained as we reviewed photographs of the basement operation. "This is a federal case involving marriage fraud, tax evasion, unlicensed manufacturing, and child endangerment. We're filing reports with 6 different agencies this morning." The IRS fraud hotline was our first call. Agent Sandra Williams accepted our detailed report about unreported income from Marcus's supplement business, duplicate dependent claims for Dylan, and fraudulent single-parent tax filings. She scheduled an immediate investigation, noting that multi-state distribution of unregulated products elevated the case to federal priority status. "Mr. Patterson," Agent Williams said, "the evidence you've provided suggests systematic tax fraud over multiple years. We'll be issuing audit notices and conducting interviews within 72 hours. Child Protective Services responded with equal urgency when I described Dylan living in a home with illegal chemical storage and parents engaged in criminal activity. Caseworker Michelle Torres scheduled an emergency inspection for that afternoon, emphasizing that children's safety took precedence over parental rights in suspected criminal environments. The Oregon State Attorney General's office accepted our marriage fraud complaint with immediate interest. Assistant Attorney General Robert Chen noted that marriage fraud cases involving ongoing criminal enterprises qualified for expedited prosecution under federal organized crime statutes. "Your documentation is exceptional," Attorney General Chen observed. "Most marriage fraud victims don't discover the deception until after significant damage occurs. Your proactive evidence gathering may prevent other victims and protect the child involved." The FDA regional office investigated unregulated supplement manufacturing with particular intensity. Inspector David Kumar explained that unlicensed dietary supplement production posed serious public health risks, especially when chemicals were stored in residential areas near children. "We're coordinating with the DEA because some of these chemical compounds can be diverted for illegal drug manufacturing," Inspector Kumar warned. "The basement laboratory you've documented requires immediate hazardous material assessment." By 10:30, multiple agencies had opened active investigations into Sarah and Marcus's activities. Each agency would conduct independent inquiries, but Jake had arranged coordination to prevent evidence tampering or flight risk. "Ted, you need to stay away from the house today," Jake advised. When multiple agencies converge on a location simultaneously, situations can escalate quickly. "Let the professionals handle the confrontation." I drove to my office at Intel, maintaining normal work routines while agencies executed their investigations. My phone buzzed throughout the day with updates from Jake, each message confirming that Sarah and Marcus's criminal enterprise was unraveling faster than they could possibly contain. At 1:15, Child Protective Services arrived at the house for their emergency inspection. Within minutes, they'd discovered the basement chemical storage and called for hazardous material specialists. Dylan was at school, unaware that his home environment was being evaluated for safety violations. At 2:30, IRS agents executed a financial fraud investigation, seizing banking records, tax documents, and business materials. They discovered Marcus's supplement distribution network extended beyond Oregon into Washington, California, and Nevada, making it a multi-state criminal enterprise. At 3:45, FDA inspectors arrived with DEA agents to investigate the basement laboratory. They found equipment and chemicals sufficient for large-scale supplement manufacturing, along with substances that violated federal controlled substance regulations. Jake, they found what? I asked when he called with updates. Precursor chemicals that can be used for manufacturing illegal stimulants. Marcus wasn't just making dietary supplements. He was positioned to produce controlled substances if the supplement business failed. At 4:20, Oregon State Police arrested Marcus on charges of marriage fraud, tax evasion, operating an unlicensed business, and possession of controlled substance precursors. His bail was set at $50,000 due to flight risk and the multi-state nature of his criminal activities. Sarah's arrest came at 5:10 as she arrived home from work to find her house surrounded by federal agents. Charges included marriage fraud, tax fraud, benefits fraud, child endangerment, and conspiracy to distribute unregulated substances. Her bail was set at $75,000 because of her role in coordinating the fraudulent marriage that enabled their criminal enterprise. Dylan's emergency placement became necessary when Child Protective Services determined that both parents were incarcerated and the family home was contaminated with hazardous chemicals. Caseworker Torres contacted me as Dylan's stepfather requesting emergency foster placement while they located suitable relatives. Mr. Patterson, Dylan is asking for you, specifically, Torres explained. He's frightened and confused about his parents' arrests, but he trusts you to keep him safe. I drove immediately to the CPS office, finding Dylan sitting in a conference room looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. When he saw me, his composure cracked completely. "Ted, I don't understand what's happening," he sobbed. "They said Mom and Marcus did bad things, but they won't tell me what. Are you going to leave me too?" For the first time since learning about the birthday party exclusion, I felt genuine emotion break through my strategic planning. This 13-year-old boy had been used as a pawn in his parents' criminal activities, excluded from knowing the truth about their illegal business, and now faced losing everything he'd believed was stable in his life. "Dylan, I'm not going anywhere," I promised, kneeling to meet his eyes. "Whatever happens with your parents, you're not alone." Caseworker Torres approved emergency placement based on my existing relationship with Dylan and my cooperation with their investigation. She explained that Dylan would need counseling to process his parents' criminal activities and the disruption to his family structure. Mr. Patterson, Dylan has been living in an environment of deception and criminal activity for months, Torres observed. Children in these situations often blame themselves or struggle with trust issues. He'll need consistent, honest support during this transition. That evening, Dylan and I sat in my temporary apartment, which I'd rented after moving out of the contaminated family home. He asked difficult questions about his parents' activities, their motivations, and what would happen to his family. "Ted, did you know Mom and Marcus were doing illegal things?" "No, Dylan. I discovered it the same night you had your birthday party. I was as shocked as you are. Is that why Mom didn't want you at my party, because she knew you'd figure out their secrets?" His intuition stunned me. At 13, Dylan understood manipulative dynamics better than I'd given him credit for. "I think so," I answered honestly. "Your mom and Marcus were protecting their illegal activities by keeping me separate from family events." Dylan was quiet for several minutes, processing information that would challenge any child's understanding of their parents. "Ted, when Mom and Marcus get out of jail, do I have to go back to living with them?" "Dylan, that decision will be made by people whose job is protecting children. But I promise you'll have a voice in what happens, and I'll support whatever makes you feel safest." That night, as Dylan slept in the guest bedroom, I realized my strategic response to Sarah and Marcus's betrayal had accomplished something I'd never anticipated. Instead of just exposing their crimes and protecting myself, I'd potentially saved Dylan from years of living with parents who used him as cover for criminal activities. Justice wasn't just being served. A child was being protected from adults who'd prioritized their criminal enterprise over his safety and well-being. The next 3 weeks unfolded like a carefully orchestrated legal symphony, with each agency's investigation revealing new layers of Sarah and Marcus's criminal enterprise. I maintained detailed communication with all involved parties while focusing on Dylan's emotional recovery and stability. Federal prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office contacted Jake Morrison on day 4 of the investigation. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Walsh explained that Sarah and Marcus's case had become a priority due to the combination of marriage fraud, multi-state tax evasion, and drug-related charges. "Your client's evidence gathering was exceptional," Attorney Walsh told Jake during our conference call. "Most marriage fraud cases rely on circumstantial evidence and victim testimony. Mr. Patterson provided documented proof of premeditated criminal conspiracy spanning multiple federal jurisdictions. The basement chemical analysis revealed Marcus had been manufacturing supplements containing banned stimulants, distributing them across state lines without FDA approval or DEA registration. His customer database included 17 states, generating over $230,000 in unreported income across 18 months. Sarah's role as financial coordinator made her equally culpable. Bank records showed she'd been systematically transferring money from our joint account to fund Marcus's illegal manufacturing operation, while maintaining fraudulent tax filings claiming single-parent status. Dylan's school counselor, Mrs. Rebecca Johnson, requested a meeting to discuss his emotional state during the crisis. She'd noticed significant behavioral changes since his parents' arrests, including improved focus, reduced anxiety, and increased willingness to participate in classroom activities. "Ted, this might sound strange, but Dylan seems relieved," Mrs. Johnson observed. "Children living with family secrets often carry tremendous stress even when they don't understand the specific problems." Dylan's therapy sessions with Dr. Michael Stevens provided additional insight into the psychological damage caused by his parents' deceptive lifestyle. Dr. Stevens explained that children in criminally dysfunctional families often develop hypervigilance and trust issues that can persist for years. "Dylan has been living in an environment where truth was constantly manipulated," Dr. Stevens explained during our family session. "His parents used him as a cover for illegal activities while excluding him from understanding basic family dynamics. The confusion and isolation he's experienced will require ongoing therapeutic support." But Dylan's resilience surprised everyone involved. He adapted quickly to living with me, establishing routines around homework, sports, and social activities. His natural personality, freed from the stress of family deception, revealed a thoughtful, intelligent young man who'd been suppressed by his parents' criminal priorities. "Ted, can I ask you something?" Dylan said one evening while we prepared dinner together. "Always. Did Mom and Marcus ever actually love each other, or was everything fake?" The question revealed Dylan's mature understanding that his entire family structure had been built on deception and criminal conspiracy rather than genuine relationships. "Dylan, I think they loved their idea of being together, but they chose illegal activities over honest family life. That's not your fault, and it doesn't mean their feelings for you weren't real." Sarah's sentencing hearing occurred on day 22. She received 18 months in federal prison for marriage fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy to distribute unregulated substances. Her cooperation with investigators reduced her sentence, but federal marriage fraud carries mandatory minimums that couldn't be waived. Marcus received 36 months for manufacturing and distributing controlled substances across state lines, tax evasion, and marriage fraud conspiracy. His criminal history in Nevada, which investigators discovered during background checks, enhanced his sentence under federal repeat offender provisions. Both parents lost custody of Dylan permanently. Family Court Judge Patricia Anderson ruled that parents engaged in criminal enterprises could not provide safe, stable environments for children, regardless of their personal relationships with the child. This court finds that both parents prioritized criminal activities over their son's welfare, Judge Anderson stated during the custody hearing. They used their child as cover for illegal business operations while systematically deceiving him about basic family relationships. Child Protective Services recommended permanent custody transfer to me, based on Dylan's expressed preference, our established relationship, and my cooperation throughout the investigation. Caseworker Torres noted that Dylan had thrived during our temporary arrangement, showing improved academic performance and emotional stability. "Mr. Patterson, you've provided Dylan with honest, consistent support during an extremely difficult period," Torres observed. "Children who experience family criminal activity often struggle with trust and attachment. but Dylan has maintained his bond with you throughout this crisis. The custody transfer included comprehensive family counseling requirements, ensuring Dylan would have professional support, processing his parents' criminal behavior, and his family's restructuring. Dr. Stevens continued weekly sessions helping Dylan understand that his parents' choices reflected their character flaws, not his worth as a person. Dylan's 13th birthday had revealed his parents' criminal enterprise. His 14th birthday, 6 months later, represented his liberation from their deceptive lifestyle. "Ted, can we have a real birthday party this time?" Dylan asked while planning his celebration. "With people who actually want to be there." We invited his soccer teammates, school friends, and supportive teachers who'd watched him navigate his family crisis with remarkable maturity. Mrs. Patterson baked his favorite chocolate cake, insisting it was her contribution to celebrating such a brave young man. Jake Morrison attended with his own teenage son, creating connections for Dylan with other families who valued honesty and integrity. Coach Rodriguez brought the entire soccer team, emphasizing that Dylan's courage during his family crisis had inspired other players facing their own difficulties. "Ted, this feels different than last year," Dylan observed as he opened presents surrounded by people who genuinely cared about his happiness. "Different how?" "Real," he said simply. "Last year felt like a performance for adults. This feels like people actually celebrating me." That evening, after his friends had gone home, Dylan approached me with a question that represented his emotional healing. "Ted, I know you're not my biological father, and I know my parents created legal problems about our family, but would it be okay if I called you Dad? Not because I have to, but because that's how I feel about you." The question carried weight beyond simple terminology. Dylan was choosing to create authentic family relationships based on trust, honesty, and mutual respect, rather than legal obligations or biological connections. "Dylan, I'd be honored if you called me Dad, but only if that feels right to you, not because you think I expect it." "It feels right," he said confidently. "You're the one who protected me when things got scary. You're the one who tells me the truth even when it's difficult. That's what dads do." 6 months after discovering my exclusion from a birthday party, I'd gained something far more valuable than the marriage I'd lost. I'd gained the opportunity to be a real father to a remarkable young man who deserved better than the criminal deception his biological parents had provided. Justice had been served through proper legal channels, but more importantly, a child had been protected and given the chance to experience genuine family relationships built on honesty, consistency, and unconditional support. 1 year later, Dylan and I stood in the kitchen of our new house on Cedar Street preparing for his 15th birthday celebration. The morning sunlight streamed through windows that had never been contaminated by criminal activity or family deception. Our home reflected the honest, stable life we'd built together through patience therapy and mutual respect. "Dad, do you think Mom and Marcus understand what they lost?" Dylan asked while mixing cake batter using the title he'd chosen freely rather than through legal obligation. "I think they're beginning to understand," I replied, watching him work with the confidence of a young man who'd learned to trust his own judgment. "Your mother's letters suggest she's recognizing how her choices affected you." Sarah had been writing to Dylan from federal prison letters we reviewed together with Dr. Stevens to ensure they contained genuine accountability rather than manipulation. Her recent communication showed signs of authentic remorse, acknowledging that her criminal activities had endangered Dylan and destroyed his sense of family security. Marcus's letters were less frequent but equally honest about his failures as a father. He'd entered substance abuse treatment while incarcerated, addressing addiction issues that had contributed to his criminal behavior and poor decision-making regarding Dylan's welfare. Dr. Stevens says they might be different people when they get out. Dylan observed his tone reflecting mature understanding of human complexity rather than childish optimism. "People can change, but Dylan, you don't owe them forgiveness just because they're your biological parents. Your job is protecting your own well-being and continuing to grow into the amazing person you're becoming." Our morning routine included reviewing Dylan's academic achievements, which had flourished in an environment free from family secrets and criminal stress. His grades had improved dramatically, he'd been elected to student government, and his soccer skills had earned him consideration for the varsity team, despite being a sophomore. Dad, Dylan corrected himself with a smile. Coach Martinez wants to talk with you about summer soccer camp opportunities. Some college scouts might be interested if I keep improving. College prospects for Dylan represented possibilities his biological parents had never prioritized. Sarah and Marcus had been focused on immediate gratification through criminal activities rather than long-term planning for Dylan's education and development. We'll meet with Coach Martinez this week, I promised. Your future is worth investing in properly. Amanda Richardson, Dylan's English teacher, whom I'd met during parent conferences, had become an important part of our extended family. Her patience during Dylan's emotional recovery and her encouragement of his writing abilities had helped him process his family trauma through creative expression. Amanda's bringing her famous brownies to your party tonight, I mentioned, noting Dylan's pleased expression. She's really good for us, Dylan said with the perceptive honesty that had developed since escaping his parents' deceptive environment. She doesn't try to replace anyone or fix everything. She just adds good stuff to what we already have. Amanda's approach to our relationship had been deliberately gradual, respecting Dylan's need for stability and my caution about introducing romantic complications. After 18 months of friendship that slowly evolved into deeper connection, she'd become a trusted partner who enhanced our family dynamic rather than disrupting it. The birthday party that evening represented everything Dylan's previous celebrations had lacked: authentic relationships, honest communication, and people who valued his happiness above their own convenience. 15 of his classmates attended along with soccer teammates, supportive teachers, and neighbors who'd watched him navigate family crisis with remarkable resilience. Jake Morrison brought his family, creating connections with other parents who prioritized integrity and character development. Mrs. Patterson contributed her legendary chocolate chip cookies, insisting that celebrating Dylan's growth was community responsibility. Coach Martinez attended with several team members, emphasizing that Dylan's leadership during adversity had inspired other players facing their own family challenges. Dylan, you've shown us all what courage looks like, Coach Martinez said during his informal toast. Facing difficult truth about family requires strength most adults never develop. But the most meaningful moment came when Dylan opened his final present, a college savings account I'd established with contributions from everyone who'd supported him during his parents' criminal prosecution. The account contained over $8,000, representing community investment in his future education and independence. This is from everyone who believes in you, I explained as Dylan stared at the account statement with tears in his eyes. College isn't just a possibility now. It's a certainty. Dad, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. Just keep being the incredible person you've always been, even when your parents' choices made it difficult. After the guests had gone home, Dylan and I sat on our back porch, reflecting on his journey from criminal family victim to thriving teenager with genuine support systems and clear future prospects. Dad, can I tell you something I've never said before? Always. When Mom excluded you from my 13th birthday party, I was actually relieved. His admission surprised me. Relieved why? Because I knew something was wrong with how they treated you, but I didn't understand what. When you weren't there, I could stop pretending everything was normal. The whole party felt fake because the one honest person in our family wasn't included. Dylan's insight revealed how children recognize authentic relationships, even when they lack vocabulary to articulate their observations. His instinctive trust in my character had survived his parents' manipulation, providing foundation for our current family bond. Dylan, you saved yourself by recognizing truth even when it was complicated. That courage will serve you well throughout your life. I learned it from watching you, he replied. When you discovered Mom and Marcus's lies, you didn't get revenge. You protected me by letting the right people handle the problems. That taught me that real strength means choosing justice over anger. His words crystallized the life lessons our shared experience had provided. Protecting children requires adult courage to confront difficult truths and seek appropriate help, rather than attempting personal retribution. Real family relationships develop through consistent honesty, mutual respect, and prioritizing children's welfare above adult convenience. Dad, do you think other kids are living with family secrets that hurt them? Unfortunately, yes. But Dylan, your experience shows that truth eventually emerges, and children can recover from family trauma when they receive proper support and honest relationships. Maybe someday I can help other kids who are dealing with family problems. His desire to transform personal trauma into service for others represented complete emotional healing and character development. Dylan had evolved from victim of family criminal activity into a young man committed to helping others navigate similar challenges. That would be an incredible way to honor what you've learned, I said, feeling profound pride in his emotional growth and moral clarity. We sat in comfortable silence watching fireflies begin their evening dance in our backyard. Our family had been forged through crisis rather than biology, strengthened by choosing truth over convenience, and sustained by mutual commitment to each other's growth and happiness. Sarah would be released from federal prison in 14 months. Marcus would follow 8 months later. Both would face probation requirements, financial restitution, and permanent criminal records that would limit their employment and housing options. Their choices had consequences that would affect them for years. But Dylan would face his future with advantages they could never provide: genuine family support, community connections, educational opportunities, and most importantly, the knowledge that authentic relationships are built on honesty, consistency, and mutual respect, rather than manipulation, deception, and criminal enterprise. Sometimes protecting the people you love requires temporary discomfort for long-term healing. Sometimes seeking justice through proper channels creates lasting positive change that personal revenge could never achieve. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is hold people accountable for harmful behavior while ensuring that innocent victims receive the support and protection they deserve. Real family relationships are built on choice, not obligation. Mutual respect, not manipulation. Truth, not convenience. And sometimes the most important family bonds develop between people who choose each other through adversity, rather than those connected by biology alone. Dylan's 15th birthday represented not just his growth, but our family's triumph over deception, criminality, and manipulation. We'd built something authentic from the ruins of something false, proving that honest relationships can flourish even after betrayal, and that children can heal from family trauma when they receive consistent support from adults who prioritize their welfare above personal comfort. That night, as Dylan completed homework at our kitchen table and Amanda graded papers beside him, I felt the deep satisfaction of a man who'd chosen justice over revenge, protection over retaliation, and truth over convenience. Our family wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was honest. It was built on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine care for each other's well-being. And that made all the difference. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where standing up for what's right required short-term sacrifice for long-term healing? How do you think communities can better support children caught in family situations involving deception or criminal activity? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button to help others find it. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories about courage, family, and finding strength during difficult times. And if you know someone who might benefit from hearing about how proper legal channels can protect victims of family fraud, please share this story with them. Thank you for listening to Dylan's and my journey from betrayal to healing. Remember, real family relationships are built on choice and mutual respect, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do is ensure that truth and justice prevail over convenience and deception. Take care, and I'll see you in the next story.